I agree completely. Yes. Once we get full pads, I mean, right now it's, you're going to get just a little bit. You're going to have some players shining like what we've talked about. Try not to get overhyped. I got to ask you though, because I've been high on this player. That I've talked about linebacker, and we think there might be a
Oh,
possibility
I
of
forgot
needing
about
to
this.
acquire someone. Maybe
Yes.
not. Now, Howie did say in his opening presser, he said, we are open at the linebacker position. We're considering all options. So I have no problem with that. I love it. Yes, you're going to see what you have, but this is the time for players to make plays and to do something. And Nicholas Morrow took first team reps. But I, for the life of me, could not see a single tweet about anything that Nicholas Morrow did. Yet Christian Ellis was taking second team reps, and he got another interception, and everyone's blowing up Twitter saying he's incredible. Now, again, it's just day one. But what say you about linebacker battle? Is there someone else? Is Christian Ellis a possibility? You maybe thoughts on that with him or Nicholas Morrow?
I didn't see any Morrow tweets either, but I also didn't see Nakobe Dean tweets at all today, and we're
That's
not all going
true.
to rip
That's
Nakobe
fair.
Dean.
That's
So
fair. Yes.
I'll say this. Morrow is very intriguing, but I don't buy it yet. I just can't buy this idea that a second-year guy who did literally nothing last year from a linebacker standpoint.
Just to make sure, you
What
mean
did I
Ellis.
say?
I
meant Ellis.
Yeah,
I meant Ellis. Okay, yeah, I meant Ellis. Buying into Ellis is hard because we're saying that this guy who didn't do anything last year is now suddenly, and this is based off of OTA footage, going to be a starting linebacker in the National Football League. It just seems a little bit, far-fetched, and I know it's happened in the past, but getting an interception off Marcus Mariota today didn't seem like that big of a feat. Marcus Mariota had a terrible day at camp. Absolutely awful. He fumbled the football on that Nolan Smith almost sack and then threw a pick off another Nolan Smith pressure. It was a bad day to be Marcus Mariota. Yep. If it was Jalen Hurts in 11 on 11s, maybe you could start to kind of think about things. I'm not trying to say I don't believe in him at all, but I think if there's one player who's been overhyped for Philadelphia during the offseason, it's got to be Christian Ellis, and I will take a long time to believe it when I see it, and I think you're going to have to wait till preseason to truly believe it. Now,
that's fair.
Again, I don't want to be a hater, but right now, I would bet a lot of money on him not being the starter week one. Now, it's a long preseason. We have 17 games or 17 days until the first preseason game, right? I mean, we still have a lot of time, so he can get better. But I think that the interception today only hurt the idea that Christian Ellis is this really great player because all of us are going to buy into it. And if he doesn't perform to starting linebacker levels, we're going to be like, what the heck happened? I was told he was fantastic. So I get it.
You got to pick every single practice. You can't do that in the game. I hear you. No, I'm definitely more so obviously on the Ellis train of trying to actually say that there's going to be something, but it's yes, very early. We need to see it in live action with pads in the preseason, like you talked about. But I know it's early. I'm not saying like absolutely this is going to happen, but there is a common denominator. I will say there is a common denominator of some guy who can be a playmaker. We all know, we've all seen it. There's guys that just somehow have a knack for being around the football and making plays. And
sure.
And so maybe so. I mean, Christian Ellis, he did make an impact on special teams, but to your point, like we need to see him do more than what he played a few snaps in the Tennessee game. But other than that, like at linebacker, it was only preseason, right? Like there wasn't another game where he was actually out there doing or anything, making plays. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Mariota though, rough day today. I know that he is the perfect backup quarterback mold for Jalen Hurts, but I think Atlanta and getting benched, you watch the quarterback series on Netflix, it took its toll. I mean, seriously, it took its toll. He needs to really build up that confidence, or I would not be surprised if it's McKee or Ian Book, two of people we didn't hear from at all today, by the way, pushing a little bit there, especially if Mariota struggles during preseason. So, well, I thought a big takeaway from day one that goes with Carter and some of the other players is what we talked about for weeks on here, is that the veterans will start day one. You can't read into much of the actual depth charts that you saw on the field, first team versus second team, and Carter was kind of in the mix on that, right? He was the second team defensive tackle all day long. He never got first team reps. It was Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox. And it's like, okay, that's not much to glean from. But then you go from that to the safety spot. Terrell Edmonds, Reed Blankenship, both starters there. Second team cornerbacks, not Keely Ringo, not Zach McPherson. It was Joby and Greedy Williams who were back there. So, you take what you can of these sort of things, but Carter starting off as a 2, learning as a 2 with the second teamers, it's only a matter of time before he gets reps in there. Fletcher Cox will have rest days during training camp. He's old enough and has earned enough of those to where there, you will see, did not practice today, Fletcher Cox. And that is when Jalen Carter, I'm really going to be trying to circle the tweets that come out about him or the videos that come out about him, because then he's going up against Cam Jurgens, or he's going up against Landon Dickerson, which I want to see a one-on-one of that, or, Jason Kelsey.
Yeah.
Those are the days that I want to see. Second team defense, sacking Jalen Hurts. Great. I'm happy for it. Again, seeing the impact right away, but I'm very curious to see how quickly he's able to kind of climb up that ladder, because I think both of us can agree on running downs, it's Jordan Davis in there, but on any non-running downs, which is like every down but a first down, it should be Carter and either Milton Williams or Fletcher Cox. Now Davis can mix in, but like we should be seeing Carter's, snap count really start to grow, especially with the first team as the training camp practices start to kind of ramp up. So overall, really good. Couple of things before we get into some of these super chats. I know we're a little bit behind. Andrea Donato Dragon, sit tight for a second. 0 on Sidney Brown today. I did not see one tweet on Sidney Brown today. I did not see one tweet on Keely Ringo today. One tweet on Morrow today. There are other players who, because we aren't there, John Clark didn't mention him. Electra Parks didn't mention him. We have no idea. No clue if Brown was good or not today, although I would assume if Sidney Brown did something good, we would have saw a tweet about it. So
I would
nothing
think so,
yet.
yeah.
But, it's the first one. What are you going to do? We can't have the entire scope of the team after 1 hour of practice.
True, yeah. And like what we said, too, I mean, you're probably not, yes, for Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, guys like that, they're going to get more reps. But for the other rookies, it's going to take a little bit, probably this first week, because the vets are going to be in place. They're going to see kind of how things work, how things go. They're going to be third team reps, and then eventually getting in there. So it may take a little bit of time, but yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, I would have loved to hear a little bit something with Sidney Brown there, but we didn't really get much.
Let's bring up Sirianni really quickly. I thought he had a very strong press conference today. I was watching that live as I was, working my other jobs from home. Him and Howie Roseman together, as they normally do, to open up a training camp. This is a very different training camp for him, though, right? You go to year one, Nick Sirianni, and he kind of had this goofiness to him. A lot of people in the media were ripping him. Can he take this guy seriously? Will the Eagle players, like the veterans, listen to him? That was a big question mark. Same thing really going into year two. What is this guy going to be able to improve on? How much better is he? Well, now he's a Super Bowl head coach, not a Super Bowl winning head coach, but he made it to the Super Bowl as a head coach. There's only a handful of people that have done that, slightly over 100, right? Maybe less than that, because multiple players have gone to Super Bowls. I feel like the respect factor for Sirianni is way upped in year three. There's a lot more new faces on this roster, and so they're not getting, I knew Nick Sirianni from rookie season. They know Nick Sirianni year three after coming out of a Super Bowl. I think he's going to be a little bit tougher on these guys and make sure that they, respect him, get the respect that he demands. And I think the bullhorn today is not anything new, but I think it's a little bit elevated because, all his coordinators were essentially gone, at least the big ones who could have taken over as head coach. The only person with head coaching experience is Matt Patricia on that roster right now. So I think it's a big year for Sirianni, where he kind of goes from this young, up-and-coming head coach that people are interested about but not quite sure to an established top 5, top 10 coach of the National Football League that people understand is one of the great minds in the NFL.
I do too. It wouldn't surprise me. He definitely jumped up. You see all the different lists, and depends on who's ranking, is where he falls. But he's definitely elevated, just in everyone's opinion. So I like it. I love the fact too, just his messaging. You mentioned it, like whenever he first came on. Let's be honest. I think his initial press conference, a lot of us, including me, it was kind of like, that does not really make me feel good about this. But I've been completely wrong. I'll be honest. And so he's been phenomenal. But I love too. I don't know if you caught it, but I think he used the Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas reference to the team in the opening, I guess his speech or intro, whenever the players made it and reported yesterday. But saying basically like, hey, look, we may be the favorites, or everyone may be hyping us up and saying we're the best in the NFC and this is just going to happen, but it doesn't happen. And like you're talking about for the live presser, that's what he referenced there. He's like, look, just because we did that, we're not focused. Our goal is not the Super Bowl. Our goal is for day one. We get better each and every day. And I just love it. I know it's kind of like repetitive and just on a record here, but if he keeps with that mindset, I think that's how you get better, because as soon as you start looking like, oh, hey, we're going to do this, that's whenever you get beat. That's whenever teams that shouldn't beat you sneak up on you because you're overlooking them. So I love it. I think that he'll have even more respect after this year. I mean, I'm hoping Super Bowl, but I think that it just continues to grow.
Yeah, there's still that small, I would say, what do you think? 15% of NFL fans, 20% of NFL fans who think it's more Hurts, or it was more Steichen, or more Brian Johnson, or more A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith than Sirianni. I think most of us buy the idea that Sirianni is the mastermind and he is the glue in this whole thing. But there is a little cohort of NFL fans who wouldn't take him over half the coaches in the National Football League to coach their team. And this, I think, is the year where if they back up what they did last year, the rest of the National Football League buys in, right? A lot of us were bought into Jalen Hurts 2 years ago. Last season, the rest of the NFL bought into him, right? This is Sirianni's year for the rest of the National Football League to buy into him. And, a lot of people kind of admit that he's a top 5, top 10 coach in the National Football League.